Maybe you're not quite ready to spend $12,000 on a new Pepsi GMT, or maybe you're just a college student just getting into the world of wristwatches. Today we're going to talk about why it's okay to own an Homage watch. Hey everyone, welcome to Clicky Bezel. This is Chris. So there are several reasons why you would even consider purchasing an Homage piece. So like I said in the intro, if you're a college student or just someone that's really getting into the world of watches, you've probably read up on a bunch of watches that you're interested in, or you've seen some YouTube videos on, let's say something like this Pepsi GMT that I have here. Maybe if you're aspiring to own these pieces one day, but just want to get your feet wet into what it feels like on the wrist, an Homage piece is really a great way to live with a piece that's very similar, but not a replica piece. Yes, I know a lot of people are going to say, if you're into a dive watch, just get an SKX or a Seiko 5. But there's some people that don't really like the aesthetics of a Seiko 5 diver. Maybe they just really love the way a Submariner looks, but they just can't really afford a Submariner. So, you know, of course, there's a lot of other options you can purchase from other manufacturers that are based off the Submariner or something that looks very, very similar to the Submariner. But if they want that almost one-to-one scale of a Submariner in this case, they can easily go with the Pagani Design. Or like what I have here, if you're aspiring to own a Pepsi GMT, we have a couple Pagani Design GMTs that you can look at. And then later on this video, we'll also go into a surface level review of these watches. Some people that aren't really deep into the watch enthusiast world, you know, maybe they just really love a GMT. They just want something that looks very similar to that without owning a replica. So my take on Homage pieces is it's completely okay. Personally, I never owned an Homage piece, but if I ever seen one out in the wild, let's say like a Steinhardt or a Pagani Design, it doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me more is if I see a really bad replica. That kind of upsets me, especially being a watch enthusiast and knowing that what you have is not genuine. It's not the fact that it's not genuine, it's just a little disappointing seeing these replicas out in the wild. You know, and the thing with Homage pieces is that it's not there to really fool anyone. It has a big old logo on there. It says Pagani Design. And yes, maybe from afar, from a distance, it may look like a true Batman, but the person who chooses to wear this watch, I'm pretty sure they know that what they're wearing is an Homage piece and it's totally fine. And the great thing in today's age is that there's so many watches you can choose from like Seiko to Longines, but there's also these micro brands, or in this case, Chinese micro brands that are making very close representations of legendary watches, like the GMT. Now, for me personally, I never really thought about owning an Homage piece because, for instance, this GMT has always been a dream of mine to own one day, especially at the retail level. However, I can't imagine myself wearing an Homage piece because in the back of my mind, I know that it's not the real thing and it's not gonna truly represent what a true Rolex GMT is gonna feel like on the wrist. I'm sure there's different tier levels of these Homage pieces that are better than others, but just knowing that it's not gonna be quite the same finishing and as detailed as the actual piece. But that's just my personal take on an Homage piece. So today we have these two Pagani Design GMTs. And yes, we all know what it's trying to look like. It's trying to look like a GMT-Master II. Now, the Pepsi version is with an aluminum bezel, and the Batman version is going to be with a ceramic bezel. I'm not quite sure why the Pepsi version is an aluminum bezel. I believe it might be the fact that it's kind of hard to manufacture a red and blue bezel versus a black and blue. It's just coming from my theory that even for Rolex, they found it kind of difficult to find the perfect technique to make a red and blue Pepsi GMT bezel. Now, I purchased these watches out of curiosity, and I've always seen it on Amazon whenever I'm shopping for something. Now, at first glance, I was pretty impressed. Like after taking off all the plastic, they're pretty well-built watches for only $100 or less. On the wrist, the dimensions are almost there. It's not quite the same. It's a little bit inflated in some areas, like the bezel. And of course, the finishing is not going to be as sharp as a genuine GMT-Master II. However, if you're really striving for that GMT-Master II look, or if you just want something very similar because you love the look of a GMT-Master II, why not pick it up for $100? Maybe you can use it as an aspirational piece for you to work towards and pick up a genuine GMT-Master II of your own. A few things that really stood out to me, of course, is the bracelet. The bracelet's not going to be as well refined. The bezel is a 120-click unidirectional bezel, which is, you know, not quite what a GMT is supposed to have. Although I have to say, it has a really satisfying clicky bezel. That's a really good bezel. And of course, the polished and brushed areas of the watch isn't gonna be as refined as a GMT-Master II, but it's still surprisingly really nice. And if you're just gonna casually wear this watch, I think you would have a really good time with this on your wrist. One last thing, I almost forgot to mention the GMT functionality of the watch. It doesn't function like a true GMT. It is a traveler's GMT, but a lot of watches fall under this traveler's GMT functionality. A lot of people aren't even using the GMT functionality anyways, and if you really wanted to use it, you can use it like a GMT-Master I, which is the 20 24-hour bezel. Also, if you guys made it this far in the video, are you guys a fan of black licorice? Let me know down in the comments below. If you're just getting into the world of wristwatches, I think this is one of the best times to really experiment with what you like. If you don't have access to an AD to look at a Batman in this case. Also, these watches are automatic, so if this is going to be your first mechanical watch, I think it's a pretty good buy for $100. So in the end, buy what you like. Even if it's an homage, enjoy it. It could be a stepping stone watch to the real thing. I would say as long as you're staying away from the replicas, I think it's totally okay to buy these homage watches. As for these $100 homage pieces, I think they're pretty good to scratch that itch if you want something similar to another watch that you really desire. And if you're not a watch enthusiast, but you just want something in the sub $100 category that looks like one of these legendary watches, I think it's totally fine. Pull the trigger and hope that's not your gateway watch into this whole madness of this wonderful watch world we're on into. Also, if you guys are interested in a watch giveaway, be sure to stick around because I have something special for you guys. If you guys made it this far in the video, you may have noticed that there's a little bit of a change in the scenery. At the moment, my apartment and video studio is actually flooded right now. So we're gonna be stuck in this hotel situation for a little bit. Hopefully not too long, but the show must go on. Well, my name is Chris. Thanks for stopping by my channel, Clicky Bezel, and we'll see you next time.